I'll not buy an insurance because I'm never going to meet with an accident. We normally don't do that, right? We invest in that because, in certain cases we need that. So training is like an investment.
Yeah.
Every resource needs to be trained. So yes, there's a basic skill set that you need to look for. That is the qualification correct? Is what you're looking at, basic checklist after it's done. The major role of an employer happens in investing into training. And like we invest in a product or in a services, in our marketing, everything, investment in the training is as crucial as everywhere else.
Hello, namaskar, namaste. I'm Anand and I work with deAsra Foundation, and it's been pleasure to be on this podcast series, what we call as Dream Big. So today is the third one in the HR series, and today we are doing it on training and retention. The earlier ones we had on recruitment as well as managing team and delegation, and today we have with us Sajiri. Hello Sajiri and a warm welcome.
Hi Anand, thank you so much.
So it's been pleasure to have you over here, and you have worked in this area for last more than 16 years. So Sajiri has worked in this area for last more than 16 years, and HR is her firm that she works for. So you have a huge experience in this field related to training, retention, recruitment, and everything that has to do with HR. And nano businesses, micro businesses, small businesses, all of these sizes of businesses need HR.
Absolutely.
And there are different needs that all of these firms have. So a small question, and we will begin with the discussion today, is that what's your experience been like in the industry?
So when we started HR Solutions, we were like 16 years ago, coming from an IT background, worked for an IT firm. We truly believe that what processes or what that actually makes an organization different is how much focus they actually put on people. And that's the reason that when we started with the sole purpose of helping the small and medium organizations where there is definitely a lot of scope in the area of HR, but not much awareness. Right. Because when we talk about business owners or small owners, the myth is that we get our products right, we get our services right, and focus on that. And people is something that is treated as a second grade. Okay? People is something that can be managed, and that's the myth that when we started and we wanted to break, and we focused on the small and medium organizations to bring about a change there. So like you said, 16 years, been a wide experience dealing with employee size of 8 and 10 to up to 2,000, 3,000 is the area that we have worked with. And we have been able to show the difference of even when you're a people size of 5 and 10 and one or just a startup, what the HR training and or having the right kind of policies can make a difference to the business.
Absolutely. And that's very important. People are the core of any sort of business.
Absolutely.
So when we look at this entire spectrum of HR, and while we zoom in into training and retention,
right,
small businesses, or particularly what typically we call as nano, maybe a food restaurant or a small shop or clothing, all these kinds of businesses that the deAsra Foundation works with face different sorts of challenges in the field of HR.
Correct.
Few of them being in the area of recruitment or how to get people in. But when people come in, as an employer, what is the employer's role to look at training?
So when we say about recruitment is a challenge, a lot of small business owners look for that perfect resource. That when you're talking about hiring, I want a perfect resource. And that I think is a myth. There's nothing called a perfect resource that you will get. Every resource needs to be trained. So yes, there's a basic skill set that you need to look for. That is the qualification correct? Is what you're looking at, basic checklist after it's done. The major role of an employer happens in investing into training. So every small business owner, like you said, whether it's a restaurant, whether you're operating that business even from home, if you have even 2 to 3 people, spending time with that resource on day one, giving trainings is extremely important.
Right. And learning and training are used many a times interchangeably
Correct.
in large organizations as well. So typically in small businesses we see that these employees or the team members tend to learn through various methods.
Correct.
Right. So what has been your experience?
So training, like I said, when you're talking about training, the picture that first comes in your mind is a nice big classroom training with a projector and PPT, and you have a batch full of people. That is again not something that is good for bigger organizations when you have that kind of strength to do trainings. When we here talk about trainings for small and medium organizations, we're talking about training them, giving them role clarity, giving them understanding what is expected of them on the job. And that is the on-the-job training or hands-on training that we feel that every owner should invest time in. And that should happen like on day one. Spend time with the person, give them him or her the role clarity, understand what is expected of her, what works here. I think also something which is very important, and that's the training that we are talking about. We're not talking about classroom trainings and this. So what I always tell the clients that we work with, and also me running a small business myself,
right,
we understand that the impact that these programs or spending time or training those people and how things work in the organization, what is that is expected here in the business is important. That is something.
I think all these team members also learn through observation. They are watching their seniors do things, the founder do things.
Correct. Yeah.
And that is how training many a times in a small organization runs, and there is no dedicated resource or dedicated trainer as such. So how do you deal with this problem?
You don't need a dedicated trainer in my experience. So when I understand that certain skill is something that an employee lacks in my team, I would invest time in developing that skill as such. I don't need an external trainer coming in, and like you rightly said, that they learn with a lot of observation also. So if I have that skill, so for example, if Excel is something that my team member is struggling with and I have that skill, or if I don't have, somebody else in my team has that skill, I would say that you both sit together, chalk out a plan. So now what is important here is just doing an informal training is something that we say don't do it, because when you know your team member has that skill, have a clear agenda. What are the outputs that you're going to do it? Draft it, document it. Now very important is to document this training and do it. So maybe even if you spend 1 hour a day, that is more than enough, because that's the training it's required and that's fulfilled. So being very informal, but doing these trainings regularly, understanding what are the skills that your team member is lacking, addressing that skills, and trust me, there are enough skills available internally in the team itself. And even if you don't have a large team, the business owner himself or herself has to invest that kind of a time in the training, because that is something that can easily be done.
Right. And as such kind of learning or training is happening within a small business, sometimes some small business owners say that they have a challenge that there are some people within the team who say they already know it. Right. So how do you handle that?
So absolutely perfectly where you say that it all kind of team members obviously exist. So first I would say that sit with a team member and actually assess that does that person know it all. Having that discussion is necessary, and understanding also. So when you say he knows it, sit with him and understand that does he or she really know it. If he or she knows it, appreciate it and say wonderful, let me see how you can implement it also, because that's important. Secondly, when you see if there's a gap when you're having that conversation, you need to understand or make that person understand that, yeah, you know it all and hence you've been hired. But here in this organization, things work differently. And that is also something that is very important for the resource to understand, that what worked in the previous organization will not work here, because it's a different organization.
Right.
The team size is different. The maturity of the business is different. So you need to, again, have that kind of a dialogue or communication with that person and help him or her understand how things work here, and then give scope for that person to implement those things.
Absolutely. So I think so. What essentially we are dealing with is working with the resistance that the team member might have.
Right.
And that is the change that we are looking for. So another challenge is that can senior employees handle training themselves, or should every new hire get the same onboarding? Because in small businesses, it's not as much a standardized process. We are dealing with a very organic method of learning, organic method of training.
Yeah.
So how do you systematize it is one challenge. And should senior employees or team members be the ones who are training the
if you have that kind of a capability internally, where the senior person is definitely that kind of matured or has spent enough time in the organization, who can train others, nothing like it. But what is important is also to have a process. And this is what we tell business owners time and again, that though you feel that we are too small and we don't need to have a process, but I think having that onboarding process, having a documented process is extremely important. So you know that every person who comes in, these are the things, do's and don'ts of the organization is something that needs to be clearly communicated to the person. So a senior employee who has spent enough time, who knows the culture, who knows how things work here, can definitely take the onboarding process.
Right.
But documenting it, for like example, if there are certain things that in our organizations you are very strict about, because small and medium organizations are not very flexible, say maybe in terms of time.
Right.
Okay, so if 8:30 is something that you need to be in office, if that is very crucial for a business owner, then that needs to be communicated. And that needs to happen during the recruitment process also, because that person knows that what am I getting into, and also when you're training in that first things. So definitely, but if you don't have, so it's a small team, then the business owner himself or herself has to take that effort of spending that enough time with the new resource in the first week, so that the onboarding is very, very clear.
Great. And in such a scenario, the awareness of the founder or the business owner is extremely important. Another challenge that these business owners tell us while we are talking to them, we're having a chat with them, that they sometimes feel frustrated about the fact that they have trained somebody and that person leaves.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you deal with that?
See, this is going to happen. Okay. Attrition is a part of the life of where a business owner should understand that people are going to be leaving the organization. But what we often tell our clients and even ourselves also, what if we don't train that person and that resource stays? Now that's a bigger problem to deal with.
Right.
Okay. So it's like, normally we say that I'll not buy an insurance because I'm never going to meet with an accident. We normally don't do that, right? We invest in that because in certain cases we need that. So training is like an investment.
Yeah.
And like we invest in a product or in a services, in our marketing, everything, investment in the training is as crucial as everywhere else.
Right.
So you don't want an untrained resource where he or she doesn't know and is not being productive.
And that is what I think actually builds a culture for that organization.
True, absolutely. Having a culture of learning and development, if it's there from the start, even when you're a small and medium organization, having a learning culture in the organization, I think is the best culture to have.
Which in turn moves towards overall growth of the
True, because business. When the resource is productive,
right,
even you're training that person, he's going to be productive. He's going to be giving direct results to your business.
Yeah. So in a small business, training or everything that we were talking about related to learning, is just exactly on the other side of what we mean as salary and salary hikes. Because small businesses and team members and employees are all the way, or all the time worried or concerned about their salaries, right? And so training and salary. So if you train somebody and for a very small salary hike, that person leaves.
Yes.
That's a problem.
So here there are again two aspects of why do people leave for salary. So, the fact is that people would shift organizations, even in larger corporates, for salaries. So, person leaving for salary is a reality. Now, what normal business owners try to do is keep the salary or the employee cost to the minimum. And try to see if they get resources very cheap, to lack of a better word. And that is where the first mistake happens of the business owners. So, it's important to chalk out a manpower budget, understanding that how much of salary that we are ready to give for what skill, and if you need skilled resources, you need to understand that, yeah, this is the kind of salary that I need to pay. So being very miser in giving salaries is something that all business owners should avoid. So very honestly, when we started our business, we have drawn less salary and given more to our employees because those employees were crucial to us. So that is something that we need to understand and budget it accordingly. And there are some roles which we feel that are best if they leave within a year or two, because beyond a point, they're not going to contribute to your business. Let's take an example, maybe like a customer service role. The role is going to be the same. Year on year, when you're giving hikes to that person, that position becomes expensive.
Right.
It's best if that person leaves, you take another person at the similar salary because the role is the same. Just adding to that things doesn't help. So you should be comfortable saying that, yeah, it's a growth that person also needs to leave, but for that role, I'm not going to pay more.
Right, and maybe over there, that role is also easily trainable, or somebody can pick it up.
True, absolutely.
So you have to identify what those roles are.
Correct. And also for the training those resources, you're not going to invest much. So at a senior level, when that person has reached a level where even training another person is going to be more expensive for the resource, those are the positions that you need to focus on and see of how you can retain them.
Right.
So it's important to identify which roles you need to invest on and which role you should be okay to let them go for a lesser salary, or a more salary.
Exactly, are you bartering it for is the question.
Right.
And that is where actually in small businesses, it's also important about emotional connections, because it's such a small team.
Right.
Everybody's bonded with each other.
Yes.
So letting go of an employee at times is also emotionally hard.
Correct.
Right. So
because that's the bond that creates, and there's a fear in a business owner which we've seen that if this person goes, then can I survive the next day also? And trust me, it happens. So
right. So there comes a question of retention. Right? Retaining employees. Right. We actually talked about it a little bit, but sometimes it is important to retain. Is that true?
It is true. Of course, like I said, if that role has reached a place where it's crucial and it is important for your business today, retention is of course going to be very, very important. And how do you retain that person? So I would say that in a small and medium organizations, the best way to retain would be having a very transparent communication system in the organization. They're a small team, so hiding certain information from the team, I don't think that works. Being very transparent, being very open with your team, giving them a space where they can also grow, showing them the growth path, discussing strategies with them very openly. So they see, okay, that today I'm maybe stuck in this salary or in this role, but there's a vision of 5 years. So showing that kind of a growth path becomes very important. And also extremely important, which I feel is very critical for retention, is the culture of the organization. Because it almost seems like if you're an owner, you have to be strict, you have to be shouting, otherwise there is no productivity. And that doesn't work. So creating a very healthy culture in the organization where there is transparency, where the employee should be able to come to you very honestly and saying that I need a break, I want to go for a movie. That kind of a transparency, if you are able to create, I think the retention is possible.
Yeah.
Even if that person is now starting to look for a job, that person should be able to come and tell you comfortably, or also feel a little guilty saying that, I'm going to start looking for a job. If that's the kind of culture, if a small organization is able to create, I think the retention is absolutely possible.
And in fact, Sajiri, you actually gave a very nice example that, if somebody wants to watch a movie, somebody wants to actually go for a small sporting activity. It's a nice team bonding opportunity which can increase engagement within the team members.
Absolutely.
Right. And we have been seeing training is taking, different shapes and forms these days, that art forms are used in training. Sports has been used in large corps, of course.
Yes.
But you have that opportunity to actually take the team out.
Yeah, in smaller teams also. So having a quick recreational activity is also a team bonding, and that's also a training. So if your team is bonded together, or there's a very good communication within your team also, that also leads to a lot of productivity.
Right.
So
And that I feel also creates some sort of a feel-good factor within the team members.
true,
And
absolutely.
that feel-good factor for at least temporary situation is important.
Yes.
How can small business owners keep employees engaged? We talked about these small other things, but in a situation where that task is important, there are deadlines.
Correct.
How do you keep the team engaged?
So again, I think giving them the role clarity is again extremely important. Understanding that, empowering them, giving them the kind of skills you've given. We are talking about training, so giving them the right kind of training, giving them the right kind of atmosphere where they can perform, and also I think respecting the employee.
Recognition.
Also recognition.
Small
Appreciation, small rewards. Absolutely. You do, again, when we're talking about rewards and recognition as a policy, you don't need a fancy policy where you have an employee of the month or manager of the quarter kind of things. You can simply a pat on the back,
Right.
or simply saying that a job well done. So whether a person or the employee realizes that my efforts are also being appreciated and not just the result.
Right.
In that case, strict deadlines, working late in the night is something that the employee will do it for you, because that's the kind of a loyalty that the employee also built towards the organization.
Right.
So I think keeping the team engaged is by doing these little things also.
Right. And little things matter. Right?
Little things absolutely matter. And this is something that we keep telling the business owner time and again, that please understand that you're a small team. These are the things that you need to do for the team to keep them engaged, to keep them things. So we often ignore the little things, but they add a lot of value for the employee. So the employee absolutely feels valued working in the organization.
Right. We actually took this question while we were talking about team management, which was related to conflicts. Right. But while we look at conflicts from the perspective of learning or training, how do we look at it?
So a little bit of conflicts in the team I feel are very healthy. They need to have a little bit of conflict, because that's how they are even learning. So that can be used, and we say there is a conflict in your team. See how you can actually make it more productive. So how these conflicts can help in actually having a dialogue, or there's a knowledge sharing that also come out of these discussions that are there. So small kind of conflicts I think are absolutely healthy and necessary when they're there.
So as two team members or team members resolve a conflict, that also is a feeling which is victorious, and they have
True.
done it together.
Correct.
So that also acts as a reinforcement at times, that they feel bonded after the conflict.
True. And in certain cases, we get all the department together and say, now you're put in a room, and we actually enable a conflict happening there. Discuss what the problem is. And you'll be surprised what kind of beautiful processes that come out of it. Because each person in the team has different things to share. And actually a very nice process comes out of that, which then we help them document it. So these kind of conflicts is something, conflicts, we are using that as a word, but we use it as a discussion thing. And yeah, we have enabled fights or conflicts in the team, which results into an amazing process at the end of the day.
Right. So this is probably the way how even a training is structured, that like you're talking about induced conflict or induced challenge that the team has to solve together. So is it possible to structure activities in a nano business setting?
It is absolutely possible, because even if there are 2 and 3 people in a team, we say that you need to come together and have these discussions, which result into your process documentation, trainings, even the strategy of the organization. All of this comes out very beautifully in such kind of an intervention.
Fantastic. Couple of experiences that sometimes these owners actually also hire somebody and run maybe 6-month long trainings or 1 year long trainings or some bit of orientations, and they don't see results because like in large corps also, results are important. Productivity बढ़ नहीं रही, तो क्या करना चाहिए?
So 1 or 2 days of training, even if it's a technical training, especially behavioral trainings, cannot result into matching. It's like saying that, I've taken 2 classes of swimming and now I can easily swim in a river and not get drowned. It is not going to happen. It will teach you the skills, it will teach you techniques, it will teach you certain things that you need to ultimately implement. And I think every organization needs to give a chance to the resource to implement the learnings. So when we also do trainings, we often ask the organization saying that, are you going to allow that person to implement the training? Because we do a very nice training on email etiquettes, and when he or she goes back to the desk, the routine continues. So they are not giving them a chance to implement what has been learning in the training, and then they said the training was not effective. So you need to allow certain period of time. You need to then educate the manager also that, this is what he's been learning from the training, and now you give him a chance to implement that, and give him a good amount of time to see the behavior. And then it is important that you monitor what are the visible changes that you have seen, what are the things that you wanted to. So it is important also to make a list of things that you want to see after the training. Make a checklist and see that behaviorally or observable things that you can tick off at the end of 2 months, 3 months, saying that yes, now I see that it is working.
Right.
So it is not just 2 days of training or 3 days of training. That needs to be followed up with a lot of patience. Somebody needs to observe the behavior.
Feedback loops probably.
And feedback.
Yeah.
And if that person is not doing it, why he or she is not being able to do it is again the culture to be blamed, the manager to be blamed, or the person is not himself or herself wanting to do it.
Yeah, so we talked about the feedback loops, or basically judging how that training has been effective. So how can owners also justify the time and money that is being invested for training the employees?
So like I answered in the previous thing also, if you don't invest in people, that's the biggest mistake that you can make. So investing time, and there are a lot of times we feel that इससे तो अच्छा है मैं ही कर लेता हूँ.
Okay. ये बहुत बार होता है.
Yeah, and and of course you will do it better than the resource under you because you are. But the time that you're doing your resources or your subordinate's job is actually a bigger cost to the organization than actually investing in the training. So that's the common mistake that we do. And then as a business owner, you're not valuing your time. If you feel that you can make a better Excel than your subordinate, yes, of course you can. But the time that you make that Excel is much more expensive than actually training that resource.
Right.
So train that resource, and that will give you more benefits in the future for the next time. So this time you spend half an hour, 1 hour on the resource, but you have given that person a skill which can be used in your own business.
Right.
So this is something that we often tell that, don't say that right now I cannot give you 1 hour. Your 1 hour is very expensive.
Yeah. So now I'm going to give a little bit of example of maybe a business which has a turnover of say 50 lakhs.
Yes.
Okay, or maybe another example, second example of 1 crore of turnover, in a year. So what should be the approximate budget for training or learning?
Right.
What a rough estimate.
So as a thumb rule, we suggest organizations that take 1 to 3% of the average salary of the employee, and that's a good budget to have for the training. So maybe even if you're spending somewhere around 3,000 to 5,000 per employee per year, and trust me, that's possible. There are a lot of things that you can do. Internal trainings are obviously possible in this kind of budget. There are a lot of open programs that are available that you can nominate at this price, where that person can also go out. Open programs are where people nominate different people from different organizations. So when they are going and attending a training with different employees of different organizations, that cross-learning also really helps. So 1.3% of the average salary of your employee reach to around 3,000 to 5,000. That's a good enough budget, and that can result into good amount of training for an employee.
Yeah, and for a nano business, I feel that's the first thing that you need to start thinking, that you have to keep aside a budget.
Correct.
For training in the first place.
Absolutely.
That is going to help you grow. That is going to help the team member learn faster. Probably.
So for the beginning of the year, I think every time when we are making budgets, when we are saying how much are we spending on the marketing and how much are we going to spend on social media, often people make this mistake of not assigning a employee budget or a training budget, and that is something which is crucial. And we tell all business owners that even if your business is small, spend a budget, or at least make a budget where you're going to spend on the team building activities, on the training of the organization.
Right.
of the employees.
We talked about short trainings, 1 day, 2 day.
Yes.
Okay. Are they really helpful? Because my business owner is very skeptical about such 1 day, 2 day trainings.
It is effective, trust me. It is like we also discussed in the past, that is not going to give you immediate result in the productivity. But the skill that the person will learn in that 1 day is going to be important. If it's a technical training, obviously you're learning new skill. Even it's a behavioral training, there are certain things that that person can definitely implement it. You need to give them a scope to implement those things.
So one important question. Okay. Sometimes an employee or a team member is working for a long period of time with a business. Such an employee at times tends to be resistant towards training or resistant towards learning new things.
Correct.
Yeah. So how to handle this person?
So normally people don't resist the change; they resist the outcome. They also feel ki, I have got the business to this level. Now don't tell me what needs to be done. So if you are able to show them that what is his or her benefit in going through this change or going through this training, that will make that person come on board of the training. Okay, because yes, that's the fact that that person has got the business to this level, spent enough number of time in the organization, been there from getting the company from 0 to 10. But you need to explain that resource, saying that what has got us here is not going to help us in the next jump.
Right.
And for that, we need to change, we need to undergo the skills. There are things that you need to adapt to, learn new things, which will take us to the new level. So showing him or her the bigger picture, showing him what is in there for me or what is in there for the resource is, I think, very, very important. And then they come on the same page. So again, having that dialogue, communication is very crucial.
Such situations have been prevalent since after COVID. A lot of things moved to online or going digital.
Yes.
And even small businesses had to adapt to a few things which were more to do with use of technology in their activities. So technology's role in business has been proven. Nano business also is proven.
Yes.
But technology's role and technology's relevance in learning and training, has it made it easy or has it made it difficult?
No, I think it's made it very easy. So if you talk about online trainings, first they are very, very cost effective. They do it. Yeah, obviously it's not at that one-on-one connect that we are used to, but the knowledge, what you get is, I think, equally the same. They are most cost effective. You can learn at your own pace. So there are a lot of e-learning modules like Udemy or Scare, where you can take the course, subscribe to it and take it as and when you have that time.
Right.
So I think that's a brilliant way if you are ready to learn.
Absolutely.
Okay, there are some people who just skip to the next module and just get the certificate to put it on LinkedIn. Then obviously that's a problem. But apart from that, if you're going to take it, I think that's a wonderful way of learning.
Right. At the deAsra Foundation's dreamBIG is exactly the same exercise where we are talking about different topics. We are talking about different areas that are going to help in growth. So actually technology has really made it easy for all of us to access it. And the new normal has been that this face-to-face interaction is nothing but a face-to-face interaction online.
Absolutely.
So FaceTime online has to start becoming more and more relevant. And a new normal is what we need to look at.
And there are some organizations who have employees spread across all the country. So it's not possible every time to call them to one office and have the training. So right now when we are doing online trainings, there are people from different part of the country that are coming, attending the training. And I think that's so wonderful.
Right. In the scenario of nano businesses also, there can be somebody sitting geographically away who's working with you even for a nano business. And nano businesses need to be more open towards such opportunities that team members working online is also a possibility. How do you build loyalty in small teams?
So loyalty, I would re-emphasize on the point of having a very good culture of the organization. Loyalty builds when you have a very good culture, an open culture. You are able to show a growth path. You are able to be as transparent when you're deciding anything in the organization with your team members, and having a very, very good kind of a communication with the employees. That builds loyalty. Because in a small and medium organization, it's very important to be as transparent and communicate a lot within the team members.
Slightly unrelated topic, but I would say related, is that when we talk about loyalty, immediately there is something that comes to my mind is vision and mission for the business owner.
Yes.
What's been your experience in small businesses
Yes.
about orienting them for having a vision, aligning their team members to the vision or a mission?
Very crucial. It is very crucial to have a vision. We always tell all our business owners or the clients that we work with is, even if you have whatever is in your mind right now, document the vision. Document, because the goals, or when we're talking about the role clarity for your employees, will come from your vision and mission of your organization. If you're not clear, your team below is not going to be clear of the role clarity. So when we were talking about also even the previous, give them a clarity about the role. That will come only when you have very clear documented goals or vision, mission for your own organization. And review it after 6 months, because like a nano business is very, very, things can change. You might want to go into different geographies. You want to try out new things. So you change the document maybe after 6 months, review it. That is okay. But important is to document, having a clear vision on paper and communicating that to your team members.
Right. So in a small business, openness to the experimentation has to be there.
Yeah, because when you're talking about small business, it's
all
equal
about
to experiments. Yeah. So.
One topic which we discussed earlier, but reiterating it here again, appreciation. What are different ways of appreciation and recognition in a nano business?
Yeah, so appreciation, again, very crucial, very important. That will also lead to loyalty. Because like I said before, even when I know that I'm being valued, my efforts are being valued, plays a very, very important role. So maybe a small recognition, maybe just arranging a small coffee with your team is also a part of recognition. Maybe giving out a voucher, so it's not need to have a large monetary budget for appreciation. Giving maybe a small certificate, a job well done, the certificate, that could also result to a lot of appreciation and loyalty, and also appreciating them in front of the team. You've done a good job and it's resulted into it. That needs to be appreciated in front of the rest of the team also.
Right. And about raises. So when you're giving salary hikes, okay, do you really need to give salary hikes, and how much does it contribute in retention?
So money is definitely the biggest motivator and the driver of retention. Okay, so hikes are definitely something which people are expecting because they've put in a hard work for the year, and hike is something that obviously every person is expecting. What will put a person in, having a clearer idea of how much hike am I getting is regular feedbacks. Not just taking appraisals is equal to feedback is equal to hikes. So that's the kind of mentality that we have. Having regular feedbacks, making them understand that, yeah, this is how the business has grown, this is how your performance has been, and this is the hike that is going to be possible at the end of the year. So the hike is not just one meeting that you do at the end of the year. It has to be a year-long process where you give regular feedbacks that will result into the hike. And you understand how much your business has grown, how much hike do you want to give to that person rating-wise, and that's the kind of hike that one should give. Budgeting for the hikes is again something which is very, very important.
Right. A business owner is growing as the employees grow, as the team members grow, and in such scenarios, there is a habit that needs to be built by the business owner of stopping to micromanage and to some extent start giving off that ownership to the team members. Right. And in many training settings, I've also worked in this area of training for a bit now, and we see that there are very, very typical outcomes that people are expecting. That is ownership and initiative. Right. So how do you inculcate that in small teams?
So very difficult for a business owner to let go of, your micromanaging is something that comes very naturally to a business owner because that's your baby. So it's very difficult to saying that stop micromanaging. But if you're not going to trust your person, and if you don't feel he or she is capable of taking that, you are never going to stop micromanaging. So first is trust your employee, saying that you have hired that person, you have trained, you have invested time, so that person can perform. And you need to give that person the kind of ownership and accountability to the team. Like you said, that a skill of ownership cannot really be taught. I cannot teach you how to take ownership, because if I'm continuously going to micromanage it, you are not going to show the ownership. So what we tell business owners, or what they can simply start doing, is create a list of things that the person needs to do. And then certain things or certain role, tasks, give them a complete autonomy to do those things. Like, these are the things which you can do, complete this. The decision is yours. You can do this. Don't even come and ask me for these things. And when you're taking the risk, maybe give them the things that are not going to cause the business. Then make a list of things saying that, okay, these are the things that you need to discuss with me before doing it. And these are the things that you don't take decision on. Okay, for that, I am going to, micromanage you, for the lack of a better word. When you create this kind of a list and communicate to the employee, automatically the employee has this clarity of, yeah, these are the things that I need to do it, have the complete ownership of doing it. And also take the blame if things go wrong. So in both way, you need to give them, and again, give it time. Give it 3 months, 6 months time, and make sure how you can delegate more and more things with the complete ownership.
And I think that's a mindset that one needs to get out of, as we sometimes are in the mindset of teacher-student kind of a relationship for long years.
Correct.
And when you start working, it's not a teacher-student. It's you got to do hands-on, the things hands-on, and you're doing them. So sometimes mistakes will happen. And all mistakes are learning. As we look at training happens on the go. And mistakes are not mistakes all the time. Great. So towards the end of this discussion, what's the best leadership style for small teams? Strict or friendly?
So leadership style, I think it's very the same. Or business owners feel, you need to be strict. But again, being friendly doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. Okay, what we need to understand is you cannot disrespect the employee. You cannot have a very strict culture which ends up being a toxic culture. Okay, it's very strict and you're not going to be continuously being managed. That doesn't come. Also, being extra friendly with certain people doesn't come naturally. So for me, being friendly and talking about openly comes very naturally. If you try to forcefully do that, you will not be able to sustain it. So you need to understand that, even with less communication, maybe you're not very friendly, but being respectful of that person is the right kind of leadership. Maybe you are respecting that your resource is a human being. That itself is this thing, and you need to be strict at times and friendly at times. But I think if you respect that person, you are a good leader or a manager.
So it's more situational that one needs to look at it.
Correct.
And where a person becomes over friendly, probably people learn to take that person for granted. So that is a
but you need to understand as a leader where you need to stop. Even if you're over friendly, if you are a leader and you know that your team also needs to know where to draw a line. So I think that also is very important.
Sajiri, it was amazing to look at all of these areas in the HR field related to training, learning, as well as retention. We are moving towards the last section, which is rapid fire. So we're expecting quick answers from you.
Definitely.
Are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right. So let me go ahead with this. Best time for training?
I think the first week when the person joins.
All right. Most overlooked skill?
I think listening skills.
All right. Training style you prefer?
On the job or hands-on training, or what we call it integrated training.
All right. Retention killer?
Definitely a toxic culture.
One word training goal?
Empowerment.
What is the ideal training duration?
30 to 45 minutes. Good enough.
Oh, that short?
Yeah.
All right. Great retention strategy?
Communication, open communication, or transparent communication.
Okay. One must-have training tool?
Documenting the processes.
Or SOP?
SOPs.
Interesting. Learning frequency?
I would say when needed, or at least monthly. should be a good frequency.
In your experience, what is the best motivator for an employee?
The first thing comes to my mind is money. But since for small and nano businesses, that's not always possible, the next best thing is a growth path.
All right. Team training or individual training?
Team training.
First training priority.
Role clarity.
Most effective feedback.
Real time and data based feedback.
All right. Budget friendly training.
Peer to peer, internal trainings.
And worst retention mistake that you have seen?
No communication or not being transparent with the employees.
All right, that was fantastic, Sajiri. Thank you so
Thank
much
you so
for being on this podcast. So all those who are watching, don't forget to subscribe to deAsra Foundation's channels as well as Yashasvi Udyojak. So we are here for you as Dream Big. So remember to check all the social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So we'll see you again in the next podcasts. Thank you.